This is Julian speaking, welcoming you to another battle report out of the breach. We're in week 5 of the Fate of Eric event, and that means we're in phase 3. In this phase, you can choose to give Eric the Unsure 2 upgrades of your choice. Remember to submit your games on your preferred social media platform and add the hashtag FateofEric to participate in the event and help to decide the fate of Eric. It's time for my gnomes again to fight alongside Eric. I keep the first upgrade on him to represent his training with the gnomes, so he has battle hardened attached and gains tough as old boots. To enhance his survivability even further, my second upgrade is the polished helmet. With his leather jerkin, he can reduce slicing and piercing damage by 1, and with the helmet, he now reduces also impact damage. So I built him a ramshackle armor. And if he is the defender in melee, the attacker suffers -1 melee stat. So Eric should be ready to defend himself and stay even longer in combat when he can regain some wounds during the replenish step. Here you can see the depth of the Moonstones on the battlefield. Bernd fights as usual for the Lescherwult, and here you see the 8 models who want to fight for the Lescherwult. And here the 8 for the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth win the first roll-off and choose to be the early bird. And Mama Gimbal sees where the Moonstones are and stands in the middle to gather her gnomes and Eric around herself. Reagan appears and seeks cover behind the crates and a big rock. Young Jack trained his bare-footed gnomish fighting style and want to see what fawn will meet his sword today. On the other side, a deadly beast of the wilds appears, the Wendigo. And the hero of our story, Eric the Unsure, appears ready to wade into battle to fight for the second breakfast and afternoon tea cake. Hoff joins the Wendigo, ready to use his hunting horn. Quarrel walks over to Eric, ready to support him with his crossbow. Mr. Toodles joins the merry band of Horn and Rending Claw and tries to form a new musical performance group. Old Graddock lights his pipe and is ready to harvest some Moonstones, while the younger folks can do the fighting. Jada joins the hunt with her keen eye and deadly bow. 1. The Leschervold have the initiative and hand the first activation over to the Commonwealth. Young Jack jogs over to the Moonstone, harvests twice and steps once. Hoff jogs over to the Moonstone, harvests twice and spends 1 energy to use Hunting Horn on the Wendigo, and declares a ping 2 to move the Wendigo X +1 for 3 inches. And the Commonwealth call bluff. The ping 2 is revealed and Hoff declares a ping 1. The Commonwealth call bluff again and the ping 1 is revealed. Hoff doesn't want to put down another card and the Wendigo can move 5 inches. Graddock jogs, harvests to pick up the stone and steps once to be in base contact with the other stone. Reagan jogs, spends 2 energy to cast Verdant Growth and declares a green 2. The Commonwealth calls OK and a wooded patch appears. And she steps once. Eric the Unsure jogs to the Moonstone and spends 1 energy to harvest it down to a 1 and rests on his last 2 energy. Jada jogs and shoots her bow at Eric. She has an arcane of 4, but Eric has an evade of -1 and the wooded patch is in the way for light cover for another -1. So she can just draw 2 cards and declares a green 1. The Commonwealth calls OK and Eric would suffer 2 piercing damage, but his leather jerkin reduces slicing and piercing damage by 1. So 1 wound on Eric. And Jada spends her last energy to step once. Quarrel jogs 2 inches because he is slow and spends 1 energy to shoot with his crossbow at the Wendigo. Quarrel declares a green 2. The Leschervold call OK and the Wendigo suffers 4 wounds and is pushed 1 inch away. And Quarrel spends 2 energy to reload his crossbow. Mr. Toodles activates and spends 2 energy to heal the Wendigo. Declares a blue 2, the Commonwealth call OK and the Wendigo heals for 3. Toodles jogs over to Hoff and uses his blighted elixir on him. He declares a green 2, the Commonwealth call OK, and Hoff is moved 2 inches directly away. Mama Gimble jogs 2 inches because she is slow, spends 1 energy for a mother's love on young Jack. She is moved 2 inches towards him, and he is moved 2 inches towards her, and would heal for 2. And Mama Gimble rests on her last 2 energy. The Wendigo jogs, and Eric takes a reaction step. The Wendigo steps, and Mama Gimble takes a reaction step to stay outside of 6 inches. Mama knows the Wendigo could use his last 3 energy to use a mind control on her. With that, it could trigger her once per game ability Mother's Wrath, and that would be wasted, so she stays outside of 6 and is safe. The Wendigo steps again and Eric takes a reaction step, and the Wendigo harvests twice and Mama Gimble takes a reaction step. And that's the end of turn 1. The fear of the Wendigo and his mind control is real. Will he control Mama Gimble, or will he just use this fear against his enemies? Let's find out in the next turn. Turn 2. The Leschervold win the initiative, and during the replenish step, Eric heals because he is tough as old boots. The Wendigo jogs to be in base contact with Eric, and Eric takes a reaction step. we forgot about quite terrifying. With this one step, Eric stays within the melee range of the Wendigo, and quite terrifying would trigger. So Eric should have discarded 1 energy. Lesson learned during editing. And the Wendigo attacks. The Wendigo would draw 6 cards, but because Eric has the Polished Helmet upgrade attached, the attacker draws -1 cards. Blinded by the Polished Helmet, the Wendigo can draw 5 cards, and Eric 4, because Quarrel is a soldier and Eric can draw 1 more. Eric, as innocent as he can be, thought, when I play a thrust, what bad can happen? Little did he know. The Wendigo plays 2 thrusts and suffers 4 wounds, but Eric suffers 7 and is slain on the spot. And the Wendigo spends 3 energy for his mind control on Mama Gimble to let her use Mother's Wrath, and Quarrel and young Jack gain 1 energy. Hello, this is Editing Julian speaking. Why does young Jack and Quarrel gain 1 energy, you might ask? Good question. I talked to Paolo earlier this day, and he mentioned that when you read mind control closely, the model being mind-controlled counts as friendly. That is to allow an enemy model to attack its friends. When friends and enemies switch, Mama Gimble should see her gnomes as enemies. The correct play would be that young Jack and Quarrel suffer 2 wounds and not gain 2 energy. Mind control is a complicated ability with lots of powerful and corner case interactions. Lesson learned during editing. Back to the game. Quarrel activates and shoots his crossbow at the Wendigo and declares a green 2. The Lashervolt call OK, and the Wendigo suffers 4 wounds and is slain. Quarrel spends 2 to reload and shoots his crossbow at Hoff and declares a green 1. And Hoff suffers 2 wounds. And we forget to push him the 1 inch back. And Quarrel jogs. Mr. Toodles spends 2 to pick up the stone because he is a weakling, jogs and uses his blighted elixir on Jada. But he doesn't want to put down a card. Graddock harvests to pick up the stone, jogs and rests on his last energy. Reagan spends 3 for a Malachite ritual on Jada and declares a green 1, and Jada gains 1 energy. And Reagan jogs a bit forward. Mama Gimble jogs over to the Moonstone, picks up the stone and rests on her last 2 energy. Hoff casts his hunting horn on Jada and declares a pink 2, and Jada moves 3 inches. And Hoff jogs and rests on his last 2 energy. Graddock takes a reaction step. Young Jack jogs, takes a step, and Hoff takes a reaction step. Jack steps once more, and Hoff steps again. And Jack steps again and uses his last energy for Lucky. He can look at the top 5 cards of the arcane deck and put any number on top of the deck in any order and the rest on the bottom. He puts 2 green 1s at the bottom. Jada jogs and steps twice to engage Graddock, and Mama Gimble takes a reaction step to engage Jada, and Jada steps once again. Hello, this is Editing Julian speaking. You will witness Jada moving 2 inches. Why, you might ask? Because we messed up with the Swift rules. Jada can only use her swift movement for a reaction step. And she can just use reaction steps when she is not the active model. Sorry for that. Back to the game. And Jada attacks Graddock. She plays 2 rising attacks and Graddock a thrust. She can deal 3 wounds because she can deal +1 piercing damage and Graddock has no armor against piercing. And Graddock can deal 2 wounds on Jada. And she attacks again. She can play 2 rising attacks and Graddock 2 high guards. She can deal 5 wounds on Graddock and he is slain. But before that, Graddock can upgrade into his signature move and can deal 2 wounds on Jada. And Mama Gimbal takes a reaction step. And that's the end of turn 2. Wow, that went pretty quick. Eric slain, Wendigo slain, and old Graddock just dropped his 2 stones. Jack wanted to switch flanks to protect the stone on the left, just to leave his old friend open for the attacks of Jada. Let's see what the troops make out of this situation. Turn 3. The Commonwealth win the initiative and Quarrel remembers that Jack had seen green ones, but had put them under the deck. Next time, a single green one on top of the deck and Jada could be slain. But it is as it is, and Quarrel jogs over to the stone, picks it up and uses Brothers in Arms twice to give young Jack +2 melee and +2 arcane. Mr. Toodles jogs to be within 6 inches of Jack, and Jack takes a reaction step. Mr. Toodles steps once and spends 1 energy to cast Lullaby on Jack. He needs a pink or blue too, and the target has to discard half of its energy and restores 2 wounds. But Mr. Toodles doesn't want to put down a card, and young Jack smiles confidently because he had seen the top 3 cards of the deck. And Toodles rests on his last energy. Jack jogs to be in base contact with the Moonstone, and because of Hoff's Guerrilla Tactician ability, every friendly fawn within 6 inches gains Swift. Reagan spends 1 energy and can move for 2 inches. And Jack spends 1 energy to pick up the Moonstone and rests on his last energy. Hoff spends 1 to use Furious Charge on Mama Gimbal and spends 1 to attack. And Mama Gimbal spends 1 energy to go for it. Hoff plays a Fallen Swing and Mama Gimbal a High Guard. Lucky Mama can follow up with a thrust and can deal 2 wounds on Hoff. And Hoff attacks again. Mama spends 1 to go for it. Hoff plays 2 rising attacks and Mama Gimbal a thrust. Hoff can deal 4 wounds on Mama Gimbal because there is no friendly gnome within 4 inches to reduce the damage. And Mama can deal 2 wounds on Hoff. Mama jogs around Hoff and uses her last energy for a mother's love on young Jack. Jada jogs and can spend her 2 energy to pick up both stones. Reagan jogs over to the Moonstone and Jack takes a reaction step to engage her. And she casts a Verdant Growth, declares a green 2 and a wooded patch appears in front of Jada. Wow, Mama Gimbal survived the attacks from Hoff. That was very lucky. The initiative in the next round could become very important. So, let's not waste time and hurry over to see what the next turn will bring. Turn 4. And the initiative goes to the Commonwealth, and Quarrel spends 2 energy to reload his crossbow, and Hoff doesn't want to take a reaction step. Because of that, Quarrel takes his time to jog over to Mama Gimbal to be within 4 inches of her, to gain +1 arcane, and shoots his crossbow at Hoff. And Quarrel declares the feared green 3. The lesser would accept because Bernd has no green cards in hand, and Hoff suffers 6 wounds and is slain. Mr. Toodles activates and spends 1 energy to play a lullaby for young Jack. A perfect opportunity to let Jack discard 2 energy. And Mr. Toodles declares a blue 2. The Commonwealth call bluff, because I have both blue 2s in hand. But no catastrophe to play instead. Mr. Toodles spends 1 energy to use his blighted elixir on Jack and declares a blue 2. Hello, this is Editing Julian again. A blue 2, you might ask? Why does Mr. Toodles has an interest in giving 1 energy to Jack? That's all because we played it as the target loses X minus 1 energy and not gains X minus 1 energy. It was an intense battle so far, and sometimes a wording is misunderstood. Lesson learned during editing, back to the game. The Commonwealth accepts the blue 2 and Jack loses 1 energy. And Toodles rests on his last energy. Mama Gimbal jogs over to engage Mr. Toodles and spends 2 energy to heal herself. She declares a blue 3 and can restore 4 wounds. Jada jogs and steps twice to get in cover. Jack attacks Toodles, and Toodles spends his last energy to go for it. Jack plays a thrust, and Toodles 2 rising attacks. Jack can deal 3 wounds because his ancestral sword does +1 on piercing damage. Toodles deals 2 damage, -1 for weakling, and -1 for Jack's ancestral shield. No wounds on Jack. And Jack attacks again. He plays 2 fallen swings, and the 1 card Mr. Toodles could pick was a rising attack. Toodles is slain, his Moonstone drops to the ground, and Reagan vanishes in her mist form, and the Commonwealth wins with a 3-2. Wow, there were some very lucky moments for me. After seeing Eric and Graddock slain in a heartbeat, I wasn't sure what to make of the game. But Mama Gimbal somehow survived Hoff's attacks and heals herself back to full before Reagan could get the chance to use a Malachite ritual on her. The ritual bypasses every defense, and with a pink 2, Mama Gimbal had died. Another key moment was the Wendigo using the mind control to use the once per game ability Mother's Wrath. The way we played it benefited my game, but it should have been devastating if we played it correctly. So watching out for it next time. Either way, we tried our best to bring you a good game and hope it was fun and interesting to watch. If you cannot get enough of Moonstone, check out Paolo's YouTube channel. He is recording games on the Tabletop simulator and is doing live streams on Twitch. You find an awesome variety of troops and battle reports on his channel. Or check out the legend himself, Daniel from Ye Olde Battle Raps. He's doing Moonstone video battle reports since the beginning of time, and he's also the wonderful host of the Mooncast podcast. And check out Joe's blog, where you can find articles of different Moonstone topics. He's also organizing the Mischief and Mayhem tournament in Bristol at the end of August. The links to all those wonderful people are in the description down below. You know what you can do to help the channel. Like, share, comment and subscribe, but most importantly, I want to thank you for watching. I will paint up some minis, edit more footage and hope to see you soon for another battle report out of the breach. Like, share, comment and subscribe, but most importantly, I want to thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you from Germany. I know what you could do. Concentrate.
Die letzte Energie.
Nehmen Sie das Arkane-Deck, Herr Littrop.
Ja.
So.
Fast! Nein, ist egal! Durchbohr dich! Stirb!
Hast du dich jetzt mit der Armbrust selber gehauen? Oder warum sagst du einen Trust an?
Stirb doch bitte, stirb! 3, 4, er hat keinen